The day my husband proposed to me in our backyard, we were interrupted by screaming. Our neighbor was furious we hadn't warned him about the event. "Your love life isn't my problem," he yelled over the fence. That night, someone threw raw meat into our backyard, attracting wild animals and destroying everything we had set up. Our engagement photos were ruined, covered in mud and trash. When we looked across the street, his porch light was flashing on and off like a taunt. "My name's Casey. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. My fiancé, well, now husband, is Nate. We've been together since college. I work as a nurse. Nate's in IT. We're not flashy people. We bought our little 2-bedroom house because we love the yard. That tiny patch of green was where we cooked out, spent lazy Sunday mornings, and eventually where Nate decided to propose. Nate planned it for weeks. He built an arch by hand, strung up lights in the trees, set up a little table for two, even cooked dinner himself. The night came. It was a Saturday evening in early October. Cool, but not cold. Leaves just starting to turn. I wore a navy dress. He was in a button-down. As the sun dipped, Nate walked me into the backyard and dropped to one knee. I barely heard his speech. My heart was pounding too loud. But I saw the ring and the look in his eyes. Then came the voice. "Are you freaking kidding me?" We both flinched. Frank Delaney, our neighbor. He stormed up to the wooden fence between our yards. Red face, white knuckles. That look people get when they're not just mad, they're looking for a fight. "You think you can just throw a damn party without telling me?" he roared. My hands were shaking. "Frank, it's not a party. Nate just proposed. Your love life isn't my problem." Nate tried to stay calm. "It's 7:30, Frank. No loud music. No crowd. Just us." Frank sneered. "Next time, you let me know. Or else. Or else." He said it like a threat. Then he stormed back inside. We tried to salvage the moment. We took a few engagement photos using the camera and tripod Nate had set up. But the magic was gone. I told myself it was over. Frank was just an angry old man. We'd move on. I was wrong. That night, after midnight, I woke to strange noises outside. Rustling, growling, scraping. Nate was already up, looking through the blinds. "There's something in the yard," he whispered. We grabbed flashlights and went out. What we saw made my stomach drop. Raw meat. Everywhere. Piles of it, beef, chicken, pork. Some still wrapped. Some unwrapped. Thrown across the grass. Draped over Nate's arch, smeared across the table where we'd eaten dinner. Animals were everywhere. Raccoons. Stray dogs. Even a fox. The decorations were destroyed. The chairs broken. The engagement photo setup? Ruined. The white cloth was covered in mud and meat juice. As we stood there, horrified, Nate nudged me and pointed across the street. Frank's house. His porch light was flashing. On, off, on, off. Slow and steady. It wasn't random. It was a taunt. That's when I realized Frank had done this. He'd escalated. He wasn't just mad. He wanted to punish us. Humiliate us. That night, I made a vow. If he wanted a war, he was getting one. The next morning, Nate and I tried to be civil. We rang Frank's bell. No answer. But we saw the curtains twitch. He was watching. I left a note. "Frank, the meat incident went too far. Please come talk to us before this escalates." By noon, the note was gone. Frank never came. Instead, 2 days later, we got a visit from animal control. Someone had reported us for dumping meat to attract dangerous wildlife. They gave us a $600 fine. The officer said the complaint was anonymous, but we knew exactly who called. That's when I realized talking wouldn't work. Evidence would. Nate's brother Chris works private security. He helped us install motion-sensitive cameras disguised as garden lights. Within 3 nights, we got footage. Clear as day. Frank at 1:42 a.m., tossing meat into our yard. We went to the police. They said it wasn't enough for criminal charges, but could help in a civil case. That was fine. I wasn't looking for jail time. I was looking to ruin his life. First, we applied for a restraining order. Based on the video and ongoing harassment, we had a solid case. Then we took the footage to our HOA and animal control. Frank got slapped with his own $1,000 fine for illegal dumping and creating a public hazard. But I wasn't done. We noticed Frank had a steady stream of cars coming and going from his garage. Loud tools. Oil stains on the street. Turns out he was running an unlicensed auto repair shop out of his home. We reported it to code enforcement. Within 2 weeks, inspectors shut it down and fined him heavily. Frank's rage was a sight to behold. He screamed at us from his porch, pounded on the fence, threatened lawsuits. We stayed calm, documented everything, called the police when necessary. Every time, Frank got more desperate. Chris suggested we hit where it would hurt most, Frank's wallet. We sent an anonymous tip to his homeowner's insurance. Included the restraining order, the illegal business, the wildlife incident. Insurance companies don't like risk. By December, Frank's policy was canceled. His mortgage required coverage. Without it, he had 60 days before foreclosure. No insurer would touch him. His record was a mess. Frank tried everything: angry letters, fake apologies, even petty vandalism. But it was too late. The house went up for foreclosure auction in April. We watched from our porch as he packed a filthy mattress into a rusted pickup. "You should have just let us have our moment," I told him. "All of this? You brought it on yourself." He didn't reply, just drove off. Our backyard is beautiful again. We took new engagement photos, better than before. The new neighbors? A retired couple who love gardening and bring us peach cobbler. Sometimes, late at night, I look across the street and smile. Frank wanted a fight. He got a war. And he lost. I thought it was over. Frank was gone. The house was sold. Nate and I were finally at peace. We planted new grass where the meat had once rotted. We bought new furniture for the backyard. We even got a new camera to replace the one Frank destroyed. For a few weeks, life was quiet. Then, a letter arrived. Not from Frank. From his cousin, Roy Delaney. It was handwritten, messy, and angry. "Casey and Nate, you think you're clever. You think you ruined Frank's life, and now it's all fine. Well, Frank's not the only Delaney in Greenville. And some of us take family seriously. Watch your backs. Nate thought it was just hot air. Let him bark. We've got restraining orders, cameras, everything." But I had a gut feeling. Something wasn't right. 2 weeks after the letter, strange things started happening. Our mail went missing. Packages were opened or stolen. Then one night, Nate's car tires were slashed. All 4. Deep, deliberate cuts. We called the police. Filed reports. Updated the restraining order to include known associates of Frank Delaney. But the cops warned us, unless we caught someone on camera, they couldn't do much. So we upgraded the security system. Cameras on every corner. Motion lights. Alarms. Chris, Nate's brother, had another idea. "Let's give them what they want," he said. "Make them think they've scared you. Draw them out." We canceled a few security notifications. Left a few cameras visible and hid others. Turned off one of the motion lights deliberately. Then, I made a social media post about planning another backyard party. After all the chaos last year, we're finally celebrating in our yard again. Small gathering. Close friends. Hope nothing ruins it this time. It was bait. And the Delaneys took it. That Saturday, just before midnight, movement. Chris, watching the hidden feeds, texted us. 2 men in the side yard. Hoodies, tools. They thought the visible cameras were down. Thought we were asleep. They snuck in, carrying what looked like a can of gas and bolt cutters. Nate whispered, time to end this. We called the police, but not just the non-emergency line. We told them it was a burglary in progress with arson intent. Cops swarmed in fast. 2 men were arrested in our backyard. One was Roy Delaney. The other, some friend of his. In the footage, clear as day, we saw them cutting the lock, pouring gas near the fence, and talking about teaching us a lesson. Roy and his buddy were charged with attempted arson, trespassing, vandalism, and conspiracy. The judge didn't go easy. Roy already had a record, 2 prior assaults. He was denied bail. His buddy got out but was banned from our neighborhood. Meanwhile, I filed for a permanent restraining order against Roy and any Delaney family members. The best part? Frank's old illegal garage customers had already complained about his cousins hanging around. Now, with Roy's arrest, the HOA and Neighborhood Watch were fully on our side. The HOA even paid to replace Nate's tires and covered part of the security upgrades. People started thanking us for standing up to the Delaneys. Some neighbors shared that Frank had harassed others before, but no one had dared to fight back like we did. Just when we thought it was over again, a subpoena arrived. Frank somehow was suing us. Defamation, harassment, emotional distress. He was claiming we'd ruined his reputation and orchestrated a smear campaign that led to his foreclosure and his cousin's arrest. It was laughable, but it meant court, lawyers, public records, stress. Our lawyer was a bulldog. She countersued. We presented all the footage, police reports, HOA fines, the restraining orders, the animal control citations, the video of Roy attempting arson. Frank had nothing but accusations and a couple of exaggerated neighbor statements from people who weren't even home during most incidents. During discovery, our lawyer uncovered something delicious. Frank had lied on his initial mortgage, insurance claims, and court documents. That was fraud. We reported it immediately. By the time Frank's defamation suit went to court, the judge had already reviewed the fraud report. Not only was Frank's case dismissed with prejudice, meaning he couldn't sue us again, but the fraud case was referred to the district attorney. Frank was now facing felony fraud charges. He lost everything: the house, his reputation, his freedom. And Roy? Still in jail awaiting sentencing for the attempted arson. After the court victory, things went quiet. Too quiet. Frank was out on bond waiting for his fraud case. Roy was behind bars. The neighborhood felt peaceful for the first time in over a year. Nate and I hosted a small backyard cookout, the first real gathering we dared since this all started. Close friends. A few neighbors. Simple food. We even had music playing softly, something I hadn't allowed since Frank first lost his temper that night Nate proposed. For a while, I thought we'd won. But then, the messages started. It began with a single text. "You'll pay for what you've done. None of this is over." The number was blocked. Then came more. Emails, slipped notes under our door, even a voicemail left from a payphone. All said the same thing: revenge. Retaliation. At first, Nate thought it was someone random, maybe someone connected to Roy's buddy or an old garage client of Frank's who still held a grudge. But the wording felt familiar. The same kind of smug, threatening tone Frank had used when he first screamed at us over the fence. Except now it was calculated, patient, as if whoever was behind it was waiting. Chris went into full security mode. He traced the emails. Some were sent from public libraries. The notes? Fingerprints smudged, likely wiped. The blocked text? Spoofed numbers. But then we got a break. One of the emails had been sent through a burner Gmail account. Chris noticed a slip-up. The IP address linked back to a trailer park in Greer, South Carolina, 20 minutes from us. Frank's sister, Denise Delaney, lived there. We brought the evidence to the police. While they couldn't arrest Denise yet, they issued a formal warning. But it didn't stop. 2 nights later, someone dumped garbage on our lawn. A dead squirrel placed at the front door. And the porch light, our new, beautiful porch light, had been smashed. That was the final straw. We installed even more cameras. Night vision, audio, hidden ones in the bushes and along the driveway. And then we baited the trap again. Chris created a fake online listing, young couple moving out, selling backyard items cheap. Must come by after dark due to work schedule. He posted it with our address, but listed it under a fake name and email linked to an account we controlled. We figured if anyone from the Delaney family was still watching us, they'd assume we were leaving or vulnerable. It worked. 2 nights later, movement. A woman. Hooded sweatshirt. Gloves. Caught on multiple cameras creeping toward the side yard. A bag in her hand, full of what looked like paint or maybe oil. We called the police again. They arrived quietly, without sirens. Surrounded her before she could do whatever she planned. It was Denise. Caught red-handed. Denise was arrested for trespassing, vandalism intent, and violating a restraining order by proxy. During questioning, she cracked. She admitted to sending the emails, the texts, leaving the notes, even coordinating with Roy's old friend to harass us. But that wasn't the biggest reveal. She told the cops Frank had put her up to it. Even from house arrest, awaiting his fraud trial, Frank had been feeding her instructions, promising to reclaim his honor and make Casey and Nate regret ever crossing him. That sealed it. Frank was arrested again for violating court orders and conspiracy to commit harassment. By now, the neighborhood was fed up. Even people who had once been neutral or too scared to get involved rallied around us. The HOA banned any Delaney family members from entering the subdivision. Chris organized a community safety night where we shared our full story. People were stunned by how much we'd endured and how far the Delaneys had gone. One older neighbor, Mr. Gonzalez, even said, "We should have stood up to Frank years ago. You two saved this community." For the first time, I felt like we weren't just surviving. We were winning. By now, Frank had been rearrested. Denise was facing charges. Roy's sentencing hearing was approaching. But Frank wasn't done. While out on bond, again, awaiting his fraud trial, he filed another lawsuit. This time, he didn't just sue me and Nate. He sued the HOA, Chris, and even animal control, claiming everyone had conspired against him. It was a desperate, last-ditch effort. A shotgun blast of legal nonsense, trying to tie up everyone's time and money. His new lawyer was a bottom feeder. The kind who advertises on late-night TV with a slogan like, "I'll fight for you, even if you're wrong." But I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I was angry. And I was ready. Chris had spent the last few months doing more than just monitoring security cameras. He'd been digging into Frank's past. And what he found was gold. Frank had done this before. Years ago, back in Florida, Frank had lost a similar small home after a dispute with neighbors. There were records of harassment claims, lawsuits, even allegations that he'd sabotaged another couple's backyard wedding. That wasn't all. Chris found bankruptcy fraud from 2012 that Frank had somehow managed to bury through a shady lawyer's clerical error. We handed all of it to the DA and our attorney. The fraud case against Frank wasn't just about his homeowner's insurance anymore. It was becoming a pattern of criminal behavior across state lines. When Frank's ridiculous lawsuit went to court, his lawyer tried to paint us as vindictive busybodies who weaponized the HOA. It didn't work. The judge had reviewed the restraining orders, the police reports, the arrest records, and the new evidence Chris uncovered. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, reporters, even people from Frank's old Florida neighborhood who had driven up after hearing the news. Under oath, Denise admitted Frank had directed her actions. Roy's buddy confessed to being paid by Frank to harass us. Frank's face was stone cold, but his eyes darted everywhere. He knew it was over. The judge dismissed Frank's lawsuit with prejudice. Again. Then the DA filed new charges. Multiple counts of fraud. Conspiracy to commit harassment. Violation of court orders. Witness intimidation. Frank was taken into custody immediately. His bail was denied. Roy was sentenced to 5 years for attempted arson and conspiracy. Denise took a plea deal, 2 years probation and mandatory counseling. Frank? He was facing 15 years if convicted. The foreclosure on Frank's old house was finalized. We bought it at auction, not to live in, but to make sure no more Delaney's moved back in. We sold it to a quiet young family at a discount, just to keep it out of reach. The HOA restructured its rules, thanks to us, making it impossible for unlicensed businesses or repeat offenders to operate within the neighborhood again. And the best part? The community held a block party in our backyard, the very place where Nate had proposed and Frank had started this war. As the sun set, Nate raised a toast. To peace. To standing up. And to never letting anyone take what's yours. Even after Frank was locked up and the house was sold, I couldn't fully relax. I kept thinking about something the judge had said in court. This case shows how quickly resentment can spiral when no one intervenes early. It wasn't just Frank. It was the silence of the neighbors at first. The warnings we ignored. Even my own early instinct to talk it out instead of protecting myself and Nate right away. I had let too much slide in the beginning. Never again. 3 months later, Frank's fraud trial began. Chris and I sat in the back row every day. We didn't have to. We weren't required witnesses anymore. But I wanted to be there. To see it through. Frank's new public defender tried everything. Claimed Frank had mental health issues. Claimed the foreclosure and harassment charges were stress reactions. The jury didn't buy it. The evidence was too clear. The pattern too consistent. The victims too many. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. A week before sentencing, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo. One of our ruined engagement pictures, the one with meat juice and mud all over it. Someone had scrawled in black marker across the top, "Hope it was worth it." I recognized the handwriting immediately. Frank's. He'd managed to send it from jail, smuggling it out through another inmate's visitor. I took the photo straight to the prosecutor. The judge added attempted witness intimidation to Frank's sentencing hearing. That little stunt bought him 3 more years on top of whatever he was already facing. The day Frank was sentenced, the courtroom was packed again. The judge didn't hold back. "Mr. Delaney, you have shown a complete lack of remorse. Even from jail, you continued to harass and threaten the victims. You've abused the legal system, terrorized your neighbors, and manipulated your own family into criminal acts. You are a danger to every community you enter. 18 years. No chance of parole for the first 12. Frank's face went pale. No smugness. No threats. Just quiet defeat. As the bailiff led him away, he finally turned to look at me. For once, he didn't say a word. People sometimes ask if I regret how far I went. If I regret turning what could have been a simple neighbor dispute into a full-blown war. No. If I'd let it slide, if I'd given in after the first meat incident, Frank wouldn't have stopped. He would have escalated. Maybe not just against us. Maybe against others, like he had in Florida. Standing up wasn't just for me and Nate. It was for every neighbor who had been too scared before. Sometimes, people like Frank only understand one thing: consequences. Nate and I celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary last month. The backyard is still our sanctuary. The new neighbors in Frank's old house planted sunflowers along the fence line. They bloom every spring now, bright and tall, right where the worst of the ruined engagement photos had been taken. Every time I see them, I smile. We took back what was ours. We protected our home. And we sent a message that no one in our community will ever forget.